time no see.
Royalty is here.
Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check.
No, this is a 12:45. RNC. This is probably a very new young lady. Yeah. What do you think? Pretty good. Good. Just got back from 5 days in Florida. So. I missed the weekend snowstorm. Okay. What do you got? Okay. I was in CP. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. The 5 o'clock morning show with, like right when it started. Yeah. It started saying they had a heat. And then when I started in 2000, he was at 5 o'clock. And then Jerry Taft. Yes. And so I took off and went to San Diego until he retired. Yes. And then he retired and went off on a motorcycle ride across the country and hit by somebody. And he was only the RNC is going to have a convention next year, so it's going to kick off on that. No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll start them off.
Tomorrow? Okay, good, because I know it's going to be really good.
That's always here.
Oh, I know, I got to work. Let me see it.
We're all here. Well, good early afternoon. My name is Steve King, and I am the CEO of the Milwaukee Host Committee, which is hosting the Republican National Committee's presidential nominating convention in July in the great state of Wisconsin, and more specifically in the wonderful city of Milwaukee. Today and this week is really kind of the official launch, if you will, of this convention process. The host committee's been on the ground for the last several months, and now with the election of the chairman of the RNC, the re-election of her, we can now begin working with the RNC on behalf of the city to bring notoriety to this great, wonderful city of Milwaukee. The last great convention held in an urban city in the upper Midwest on a big lake was in Cleveland. The next best convention will be held in an upper Midwest urban city on a great lake, and that is the city of Milwaukee. We've got 3 or 4 people that I know you want to hear from. First, we're going to hear from the mayor, then we're going to hear from the chairman of the Republican National Committee, and then from the chairman of the Milwaukee Host Committee, Reince Priebus. With that, I'll turn the microphone, and after they're done with their remarks, we'll entertain some questions. With that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Johnson. Very good.
Thanks, Steve. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am here to let you know that Milwaukee is ready to welcome big conventions and big events to our city. The 2024 Republican National Convention sends a message to convention planners all across the United States that Milwaukee must be on their radar. Our city has a well-deserved reputation for welcoming visitors from all over the country and indeed all over the world. What the visitors will find is a magnificent experience and a genuine positive feeling about the community that they set foot in right here in this city. We're proud of our wonderful quality of life. We're proud of our hardworking residents. We're proud of our innovative business sector. We're proud of our cultural assets. We're proud of our remarkable natural beauty being the capital of America's fresh coast right here on Lake Michigan. I'm confident as well that the worldwide attention focused on the upcoming National Political Convention will introduce many, many more people to this great city that I know and love. I say respectfully and with a smile that Rana and I, the recently re-elected chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, we've got a few political differences, but we are, however, united in that we have a desire to make sure that Milwaukee shines in the summer of 2024. Milwaukee will be ready, and I'm particularly enthused by the positive impact on our tourism, hospitality, as well as convention businesses right here in Milwaukee. I see more jobs, I see more commerce, and I see a boost to our economy as additional conventions come here in the years to come. That's good for the entire city, it's good for the entire region, and it's good for the entire state of Wisconsin. Thank you. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to take a moment and introduce and thank our host for this, Mr. Omar Sheikh. Thank you for allowing us to do this. It's a wonderful, wonderfully unique venue. Thank you. Next, I'd like you to hear from the, as the mayor has noted, the newly re-elected chairman of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel. This term will make Ronna the longest serving, consecutive serving chairman of the Republican Party in the history of the party. Ronna.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Reince. Thank you to all of you for being here today. I'm so excited to be back in Wisconsin. I'm a fellow Midwesterner, Great Lakes girl from Michigan. It's not that cold, but we know when the convention comes, it's going to be a little bit warmer. But for us, this is the perfect place to highlight our nominee for the 2024 presidential campaign. It is also the perfect place to provide the best delegate experience for people who are going to be coming from across the country, from across the territories to your great state. But I also want to talk about Milwaukee, because as important as Wisconsin is as a battleground state, as a purple state, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the wonderful city of Milwaukee. And I want to give a huge shout out to Mayor Johnson, Cavalier Johnson, and the city council and all the businesses that hosted us, that helped us during our bidding process. You really do have a city that shines. And I am so excited to bring the world into Milwaukee, not just for the Republican Party, but to help businesses and business owners and to highlight a bipartisan effort to do great things for this urban community. So thank you for that. I also am very excited to partner again with Reince Priebus, who was chair before me, and learn more from him, who loves Wisconsin, who's going to do everything he can for this great state. But our commitment to you is to give everything we can as a Republican Party to help local businesses to be here and also create the best delegate experience, elect our nominee, and then win the White House. Sorry, Mayor, I know you're not going to love that, but that's our goal, is to win the White House and put it back in Republican hands. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ronna. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce somebody else that's here, Common Council President, there he is, Jose Perez. Next, I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, but also somebody I've known for many, many years here in Wisconsin, and that is Mr. Reince Priebus. As Ron has noted, Reince served as, how many, 3 terms? As chairman of the RNC himself. but currently is volunteering his time to be chairman of the host committee, which of course is here on behalf of the city of Milwaukee. And that's a good thing, because one of our big jobs is to raise money to fund this convention. And there's no better fundraiser than my friend Reince Priebus. Reince.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mayor Rana. Appreciate you all being here. I think you all captured what the goal here is. On one hand, as far as Rana's concerned, it's to launch in a great state, a battleground state, an important Midwest city, her goal of electing the next President of the United States, someone that she's going to be supporting as chairwoman of the party. And on one hand, you have what our job is, and it's to highlight this great city, the great people, expose this city and this state to the entire world, so that what happens in Milwaukee is something that spreads to a lot of other business that comes your way. Studies have shown that what we do here in Milwaukee will bring anywhere from $170 to $280 million to the city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin. We have a goal, and I know that on the host committee side we have this goal, and I know that the chairwoman agrees. We were talking about this many times, but when we bring the delegates and the guests, which is like 4 Super Bowls in a row, into this city, we're going to try to map this out so that every part of this city is taking in the economic boom that this convention has to offer. That's not just going to be right here downtown where we are, but wherever you are in this city, we're going to try to spread the delegates and the guests throughout this entire area. Last thing before we take questions. We have a unique situation here that I don't think's ever been done before, where you have a former chair of the RNC and former head of the Committee on Arrangements in Cleveland and the current chairwoman of the RNC on both sides of this equation, doing different things, but for different reasons, in cooperating together to put on the greatest convention that we've ever had in the history of the Republican Party. Not the greatest, for the last 10 years, 20 years. We want to put on the best event, the best guest and delegate experience, the best experience for people who aren't Republicans in the city of Milwaukee that they've ever experienced. So with that, that's our goal. We want to make you all proud, Republican, Democrat, Independent, hate politics, love politics. We want you to be proud of what we put together here for the city of Milwaukee. I guess we can take questions?
Yes. We'll entertain questions for.
I have questions for both Rana and Reince. One is on the Committee on Arrangements. When do you anticipate selecting that committee, and what is that role of that committee? And for Reince, what is your fundraising goal specifically, and specifically how close are you to being, and how much have you raised?
I'm going to give a very honest answer, which you don't always hear from politicians. I haven't even thought about it yet. I just got through a pretty, well-known election last week, and I'm coming back to D.C. on Monday, and we'll be going through when we start putting all the committees out. So sorry, I don't have a better answer for you on that.
One thing I can tell you, she's not going to say this, but she's got a little time on this because a lot of the front-end work is on our end in securing facilities, signing contracts, and as you bring up and getting to your question, starting the commitments of raising money, getting the people around the state, around the country, asking them to make commitments first, and then obviously, as you all know, you can get commitments, but when it's in the bank account is what we care about. We care about commitments, but getting it in the bank. I can't disclose to you how much we've raised, and it's been a lot, and I would say far ahead of schedule. What I can tell you is that between the RNC and the host committee, one of the things we talk about is we have agreements with each other when Milwaukee's picked, and when the host committee signs agreements, and when the city signs agreements. There are financial goals that both the RNC and the host committee have as we proceed forward to the convention next summer in 2024. we are already ahead of those goals right now. There's a goal coming up in the first quarter of this year. We've already exceeded that financial goal. So I feel great about where we're at. That's what I can tell you right now. We'll probably put out a press release on this in the next month or so on where we're at, but I can assure you it's a good story.
Ryan, Steve, what's the biggest challenge right now? Is there some fundraising?
I think, it's a lot of things. It's fundraising, it's security, it's transportation, it's making sure that when you put people in all these hotels that you can get them to the convention site within 30 minutes and deal with the Secret Service. And, there's the nomination process. And fundraising, though, is a part of it. I hope that, the good news is we have so many generous people here in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin that, honestly, we're pretty overwhelmed, truly, by the financial support that the people of Wisconsin have already committed to. And Wisconsin are generous people, and they're proud of their state. We're all proud of our state, and we're not gonna, I can assure you this, between Rana and I, we are not gonna, her last term as chairwoman, my home state, 2 chair people that raised more money than any 2 chairmen in the history of the national party, of either party. We're not going to limp into the finish line on money. That's not going to happen.
Is that the hotel goal, 30 minutes from hotel?
I happen to believe, for delegates, absolutely. Press, I'm not so sure. Hopefully you don't end up in Madison, but depends on your question. Just get further and further out.
How are you on securing those venues and the hotels? What percentage have you
You want to
secured?
talk about that?
We have contracted with a firm in Chicago called On Peak, and they have the obligation now of sending contracts out to the 300 to 400 hotels, motels in a 60-mile radius. I'm not exactly sure where they are, but they've made good progress on getting contractual commitments from those launching venues.
And the actual event venues have secured all of those as well?
Yeah, some are. The RNC would prefer to have an opportunity to actually designate certain venues for certain delegates or delegations or organizations. Oftentimes the media will be in here before that time, and it usually is interesting time when the RNC is told, well, this venue is taken. Well, taken by who? Well, it's taken by CNN. Well, we'll be talking to CNN.
Daniel, are you going to have a messy fight for the nomination before you get to Milwaukee? What are you telling us?
I think we're going to have the smoothest ride to the nomination you've ever seen for our party. Listen, I don't know. We can't look into that crystal ball. What I do know is once the nomination's done and once we come here to Milwaukee, we're going to unite as a party and come together towards November. And that's part of having a good convention, having planning in place. Our debate process is going to be announced pretty soon as well. Our primary process is in place. I would expect to have a debate here in Milwaukee. So those are things that we're already putting in place. But I am planning on having a very, very smooth, lovely presidential nominating process where we all come together in the end. That's my hope.
What do you say to people that are reluctant because of 2020 and maybe the mayor as well, because of the convention that didn't necessarily happen in person in 2020? What do you say to Milwaukeeans that are reluctant? Again, is this actually going to happen in 2024? And also that security grant, have we secured that for the protection of the city from the federal government? When does that
To folks that are reluctant, and I would welcome as well Common Council President Jose Perez to come and answer questions as well if he would like to. For those folks that have some reluctance because of what happened in 2020, I can tell you that the Republican National Convention will happen in Milwaukee in 2024. It will happen in Milwaukee in 2024. In terms of the security grant, look, I've been to D.C., I've talked to the Wisconsin congressional delegation, both Republicans and Democrats, about the need for additional resources for this. There's an understanding there. I know that our partners here in the host committee as well as the RNC are aware of that too, and we'll continue to work with our partners in order to secure additional resources for Milwaukee. That's something that I think is important, and we'll continue working at that. Let's see if President Perez has anything to add to that. It's okay. All right.
Concerned are you given the city's financial state about, the ability to provide services to the RNC? And I guess that's a question both for the mayor and also for representatives of the RNC.
Can you repeat the question for Allison?
Given the city's financial state, how concerned are you about the ability to provide services? I'm thinking DPW, police, like when the RNC is actually.
Well, considering the question is considering the city's financial state, how concerned am I about our ability to provide services to the RNC and the attendees when they arrive in 2024? My hope, Allison, and you know this, I think everybody knows this full well, that I spent a lot of time in Madison. I was just there on the 31st of January. I was in the Capitol 4 or 5 times over the course of the month of January, speaking with members of the legislature, particularly on the Republican side, about the dire financial needs that Milwaukee has, and quite frankly, other communities around the state of Wisconsin have too. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get something done here and be able to be in a position for the first time in decades where Milwaukee will be able to draw additional revenues, to take advantage of our own economy here, such as when all the tens of thousands of people descend upon Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention from out of state and elsewhere, that we're able to capture those sales tax dollars, which exclusively now go to the state of Wisconsin, the bulk of it, and a minuscule amount to Milwaukee County. We should be able to receive some of those, because when those folks come here, they'll be protected by the Milwaukee Police Department. If they have a medical emergency, God forbid, the Milwaukee Fire Department will render services to them. They'll utilize our streets and our sidewalks. They'll use our infrastructure. All that is borne by taxpayers in the city of Milwaukee. And so we're leaving money on the table that other cities, other major cities across the country, that it doesn't happen that way. Every other major city in the U.S. has some flexibility to have diversity in revenue and capture dollars when folks come in. We want to have that too. I think that folks in the legislature understand that. And we're also working on the state shared revenue issue as well, that all of us know has been kind of flat and declining in Milwaukee. And I think that in a bipartisan sense, there's understanding that that needs to change so that Milwaukee's in a position to be able to deliver services as well as other communities across the entire state.
I guess that's a question also for the RNC representatives. Is that a concern?
I will just say, we went through an extensive process with the mayor, with the head of police, with everybody in the city, and we feel very comfortable that we will be safe, that we will have the resources we need, and that the city will be able to provide it. But we also want to make sure that people are recognizing Milwaukee's a place to come, that after this convention comes, that it brings more revenue into the city, like we saw with Cleveland and other places we've been to. And we also are committed to working with local businesses and bringing revenue in as we subcontract and do things to help all the businesses around Milwaukee as well.
The debate, you talked about the debate. Are you going to kick it off here at the Fiserv Forum?
They're groaning that I did that. I wasn't supposed to talk about that. We'll be announcing that soon, but you should be able to expect that we'll have a debate here in Milwaukee. Thank you.
Very much.